another video coming to you, and today I wanted to talk about the worst movies that Film Brain has done. Now, if you do not know who Film Brain is, basically he is someone who makes videos on the Nostalgia Critics website, and basically he does more films that I think are a little bit more recent, for the most part. I think he does sometimes do ones that may be a little bit older, but I think for the most part he tries to keep them a little bit more on the current side, or talk about films that came out more recently, maybe within the past 10 years. So for the most part, the films that he does, and for me personally, this was a harder list of movies to come up with than the Nostalgia Critic ones. I don't know if that's because Nostalgia Critic has just done more than he's done, or if it's because I guess the Nostalgia Critic just has ones that maybe maybe stand out more. But with Film Brain it's rather difficult because most of the movies that he does are fairly on like the same level of bad. So it's really hard for me to really pull some of the ones out that are like the worst ones, because I'm pretty sure you could come up with a totally different list and I would totally agree, that yeah, those are bad too. But I think the list that I came up with somewhat, I guess you could say, maybe serves as a list that could be justifiable. But again, you could probably pick totally different movies and you probably would get the same thing. But for me, I think these ones are just more personal. I think this one is a little bit more opinion based than the Nostalgia Critic's worst movies that he's than the video that I did about the Nostalgia Critics movies that I thought were the worst ones that he did. But basically, I think what I will try to do is I will just try to sort of justify my means as to why I think these are the worst. But just know that you could probably say that there's other ones that he's done that, maybe just as bad as the ones that I'll say. But I think for the most part, I think these were the ones that kind of stood out to me, personally. So without further ado, let me start talking about them. And the first one that I wanted to talk about was Epic Movie. Oh my god, Epic Movie. A lot of people have really reviewed this movie, and have really looked into the sheer stupidity and horror that is Epic Movie. But I think Film Brain provides a very good context as to why this film is just so horrendously bad. And in case you don't know really basically what Epic Movie's about, it's just trying to parody things that are that came out during the time that the film was made. So they'll parody like Pirates of the Caribbean that came out around the time. They'll parody the latest Willy Wonka movie that came out during the time. Just throw stuff at you. But the problem is that all these stuff aren't really connected, and when they are, it's just so loose. And a lot of the stuff does just not make sense. Like, I don't understand what they're going for when they try to show you like what ends up happening like within the plot. Like, it doesn't tie itself together. It just tries to throw this stuff at you and expects you to laugh at it, and none of it is funny whatsoever. It's just complete and utter it's just like throwing stupidity up on the screen and trying to do stuff that are just a much better quality, which doesn't make any sense, because you'd think that a parody would kind of like try to make itself sort of smart and try to take a funny spin upon the things that they're reviewing or that they're trying to make fun of. But here it's just oh my gosh, it's painful to watch. This one was probably one of the worst ones to me because it was just so, it was just painful. There's just like such pointless stuff that happens. People break into dancing at random moments. There's like tons of references that don't need to be there and don't serve a purpose. And how everything is stuck together is just so like a slither together, and doesn't really connect. Like none of these things really connect, even though they try to make it so that the plot goes through one stage to the next. But for the most part, oh my gosh, this movie I think is just one of probably the worst, just because it's just so unfunny, and it has literally nothing to offer to the audience, and literally you just feel like that basically what they're trying to do is, you know, kind of insult the audience's intelligence. I think this is one of those movies where it's trying to literally insult your brain. It's literally like telling you, you know, because human beings came up with this stuff, and I just don't understand how you could come up with this and expect it to be funny and people to laugh at it and for people to really like it, because it's just so, oh my gosh, it's just so painful for me to watch. I mean, even the review though, even though the review is done really well, it's just so hard. It hurts my brain because nothing is there that connects, and none of the characters are likable or interesting, just nothing. You know, they're just served to, like, you know, have stupid stuff happen to them, and that stupid stuff is not even funny. It's just so random and sometimes odd. Like, there's really one point where they start dancing to Fergalicious, and it's not funny. What? And then there's one point where Davy Jones, oh my god, where Davy Jones towards the end is like a rapper. I'm not kidding you, from Pirates of the Caribbean. Literally, they're pulling off a Pirates of the Caribbean sequel, and they're trying to make him a DJ, or, well, yeah, he's basically a DJ, he's not really a rapper. He's just DJing, and oh my god, why is it this funny? And there's even one point where the film brain makes a really good point about Borat, and basically they take the same exact joke that was done in Borat and they try to do it in this movie and try to, you know, show you Borat. They show like a dude in a Borat kind of costume, and oh my lord, it's really hard. It's just one of those ones that's really trying to, I think this movie was meant to sort of screw its audience. It's really telling you to go screw yourselves. I mean, I'm sorry, I hate to put it in that way, but it's really not trying to be for you. It's not trying to be genuinely funny and trying to give you some memorable moments. It's just trying to suck all of the money that you spent out of it. They just want to do stuff and expect you to laugh at it and expect you to be stupid. That's basically what this movie, I think, tries to do to people, and I think Phil Brain really does kind of encompass that throughout his review, into how absurd the plot is and how ridiculous the jokes are, and just how awful it is when a parody can't do what a parody is really supposed to do. It's supposed to spin off things and do it in a clever way, and this does not do it in a clever way whatsoever, and it's not funny as a result, and it just ends up being done through bad writing, and it's almost borderline. There is kind of some disgusting stuff in this movie, and I think that's why it really bothered me and why I think it's one of the worst, because it's just painful. I mean, it hurts my brain just watching it because I feel like I'm getting dumber as I watch this film. So, I mean, I think that's really all I can say about it. And these directors that directed this movie aren't really necessarily the most liked by moviegoers, I assume, and I can understand why, because they make these kinds of movies. And in case you don't know, epic movies basically, the same directors did, like Vampires Suck, Meet the Spartans, you know, those ones that they're all parodies. And basically, the reason why I think they were able to somehow go out and continue making these films is because of Scream, because they made, or they tried to, I think it was Scream, yeah, or like do sort of a parody of it. I'm trying to remember what exactly the film it was. It might have been Scream. I think the Film Brain mentions this in his review, but they did do one movie where it was supposed to be kind of like a parody. I think it is Scream. I think it is Scream, but I could be wrong. But basically, due to that movie sort of being sort of a success, I think that's what launched them into thinking, hey, we can keep on doing this. And the problem is that it just wears out so thin that there's not really so much you can do anymore with the parody to make it actually amusing. So yeah, I mean, you just get a lot of these films, and Epic Movie was really, really hard to see these people do this because it was just so gross and just vulgar. And I just feel like I'm losing brain cells as I'm watching it because it doesn't provide me with anything. It's actually taking something away from me. And that's why I think why I put the certain ones that I don't really like is I don't really put the ones that I just feel like are empty. I put the ones where I feel like that this movie is trying to take something from me. And I think this movie is literally trying to take away my intelligence because this movie could have probably been constructed by a 5-year-old or something because it's just so random. The scenes don't make any sense or don't have any cohesion, and everything is just pointless. It doesn't amount to anything, and what it does amount to we don't care about because they don't provide us with anything funny or interesting, and we don't really care for the characters. I mean, these characters are just there to be kind of props. They're not there to be actual characters. It's really, really just in itself for cheap laughs, and these laughs are just I just like go that's pretty much my reaction. But I think that's really all I can say about that film. Just ooh my, it's an epic fail. Let's just say that. Film Brain puts this, I think, really well. Epic fail. Okay, next one I wanted to talk about was Good Luck Chuck. Oh my god, Good Luck Chuck. Oh my god. Painful romantic comedy. Okay, I don't mind romantic comedies. I actually like romantic comedies. I'm a little bit more of a girly girl, so yes, I do kind of like romantic comedies at times. If you know, they can be, I think, decent at times, but there are ones where they just go to this where it's not even really trying to be a romantic comedy, it's just trying to be crude. It's I don't even classify it as a romantic comedy. And this one is definitely Good Luck Chuck. Oh my gosh, where to begin with this? Okay, there is a beginning scene of this movie where a boy who's like really, really young, who's probably like 10, is almost getting literally assaulted, like almost sexually assaulted by this other character. Not kidding you. Not kidding you. In the opening scene, that is what happens. It's so, and it's actual kid actors trying to act this all out. And I go to myself, I say to myself, why are you doing this? This is so painful. and it's so borderline insulting. I mean, you literally sat down to kids and said, yeah, this is what you're gonna say, this is what you're gonna do, and you're gonna like it. I mean, what kid would really sign up for this to make themselves feel so humiliated from being in that movie? I mean, it's so, it's painful. I mean, just watch that opening scene and you will see how it's so trying to be funny, but it's not funny at all. It's just borderline creepy and just disgusting. I mean, especially when you're like assaulting some kids are like assaulting each other in this way, and it's just, oh my gosh, that scene, the beginning is just massively annoying and massively insulting, and it's just disturbing for the most part, and it's not funny. It doesn't come off as being funny, it just comes off as disturbing, to me at least. Now, another thing that you have to understand is that these characters are annoying. Oh my god, are these characters annoying me. Dane Cook stars in this movie. He plays the main character, and he's really annoying. Okay? He's such a sleaze in this movie. Oh my god. And then his counterpart, I forget his name, but he's the guy that played the sidekick in Take Me Home Tonight. I forget his name. But man, are these two just, they're frustrating to watch, because they're just, one, they're really sleazy, two, they don't have anything likable about them, and three, they don't do anything funny. They do things that are just gross and not providing anything to making the plot seem productive. But you might be wondering what exactly this film's about. Unlike Epic Movie, where it's not really about technically anything so much, because it's technically a parody, so it's just trying to parody things. It's not really trying to have anything of a unique plot. Well, check this plot out. Basically, what happens to the young boy, which is the main character, played by Dane Cook later on, is that in the opening scene he ends up getting cursed because he refuses the girl that comes and attacks him and almost sexually assaults him. And basically she curses him, and the curse is basically that anybody that he has intercourse with, basically they'll end up being married to somebody. That's basically the whole plot premise of this movie. And oh my, is it painful. Let me tell you folks, it's insulting to both genders. Very insulting to both genders. It's very obnoxious, especially with the fact that Dane Cook is just so sleazy. I think the best way to describe his character is he's just really sleazy, and he's just an idiot. And the other guy, who's his friend, is also an idiot. So you have two idiots as our main characters, but they're not likable idiots. They're just idiots. So when you have that, you are not going to get something that's worth your time. Now, Jessica Alba plays Dane Cook's love interest, and so that's why this is a romantic comedy. And basically, the only thing that she offers is just her looks. Like, nothing there at all. Like, they try to make her clumsy, but she can't be clumsy. I mean, at least they make her at least likable. I mean, I think her character is likable to a certain extent, because she is rather nice and kind of cutesy and charming. But when they make her, like, you know, fall and do all these, like, jokes, it's just not funny. But I think really what's the problem with this movie is just Dane Cook and how the plot sets itself up and how contrived it is, and just how he's such a sleaze, and how his friend is such a sleaze, and how they don't really do anything productive. And that's the problem with movies that don't do this. When they don't do anything productive and they don't grow, and all they do is act like total idiots and jerks, it really feels like the movie's trying to take something away from me. And I think this movie really was, like, if you sit down and watch this movie. But also, on a side note, I never seen any of these movies that Film Brain has reviewed, except one, which I'll get to. But just watching a review, I can already tell, just total garbage. And it's just, and the problem is too is that we don't sympathize really with his character. Like, his character is just does the dumbest things, and doesn't seem to really learn much. And, you know, I mean, and the comedy in it too, like the idea of using like fat people as, like, you know, a gag is just borderline, I think, insulting. And they just have some really dumb humor, and it's just dumb sex humor, like, for the most part. It's just really dumb. It insults my intelligence, it literally does. Just sitting watching the movie, again, Film Brain shows clips like the nostalgia clip too, so you do see what's being played in the movie, and everything is just, oh my gosh, it's painful, and it's really hard. It hurts my brain, because Dane Cook is just so obnoxious too, and annoying in this movie, that it's really hard for me to find anything there. And he's just a gross pervert. I mean, just disgusting. And so is his counterpart too. Excuse me. Oh my. It's just hard. It's just hard to sit through. And basically, my cough slash whatever I just spewed out, I don't even know if it was a burp or if it was a cough. I don't even know what that was. But that's literally not as bad as this movie. This movie is like literally trying to fart in your face. It's trying to put the most disgusting, vile things in your face, and in doing so just insults you. I mean, it insults me, and it insults my intelligence, and that's why it's one of the worst too. But it insults its intelligence in a different way than Epic Movie, because Epic Movie, even though it does have some, you know, sexual jokes in it, it doesn't really focus wholly on that. But this movie, it does, and it's just very, there's just so much of a better way to approach these things. And how they approach it is just so crude and so stupid that I can't like it. I can't come back and like it, and it just makes it one of the worst. So I think that's really all I can say about that film. Moving on to the next one. Oof, Fat Slags. Ooh, Fat Slags. What do I have to say about Fat Slags? Well, basically, it's a British film, and you'll probably notice the film rating is from England, if you watch his reviews. And oh my gosh, this was really painful. The two main characters, the two main leads, and there's two women who are the leads, they are so obnoxious and so unlikable and so gross that there's just nothing there. Like, just when you hear them start opening their mouths and talking to each other, I'm instantly annoyed for some reason. Like, literally, for some reason, just them just talking, and then the things that they do, like, it's just so crude and so low and dumb that it's that you really don't have any sympathy for them, and the audience can't really find anything likable about them. But basically the plot follows the fact that they want that literally, okay, this is literally why this plot I think is one of the dumbest, maybe as dumb as Epic Movie, and as, well, it's not really technically maybe cliched, but it's like Good Luck Chuck is, but it's very, very dumb. Okay, so basically what happens is, there's this one character who gets hit on the head, and this causes, I guess, amnesia, and in doing so, he thinks that these really overweight women can somehow be in a fashion show. Not kidding you, that's the whole entire point. And he sees them as somehow, like, attractive or appealing, just because he got hit on the head by something. How could that how can that be a movie? I mean, I don't understand how can that be a movie? How can you literally tell somebody, yeah, this is going to be the plot for my movie, and for somebody to go, yeah, that sounds funny? It's very, very hard. Very hard to really find anything appealing about this movie. And the thing is too, is the comedy is, like, the situations they get into are just not funny at all, and the humor is really gross too, like them, like, you know, being really stupid, like at the fashion show. You'll trust me, once you watch Film Brains Review, you will understand what I'm talking about. The sheer stupidity of these characters and what they do is absolutely mind-numbingly painful to watch, because they're not funny, and they're not engaging, and they're not like people who I can identify with or understand, because they're just so, the things that they do are just so gross, and it's very, very it's just dumb. It's really painful to watch, because the plot doesn't really go anywhere, and it's really hard to watch, and that's why I think this one is one of the worst, because it's very painful to sit through, and it's hard for me to really find myself getting a little bit invested, and it's really hard for me to even sit through the review, because, I mean, even though he does get through it, and he does a good job of pointing these things out as to why it's bad, but it's so hard to wrap your brain around why somebody would make such a film like this, and expect it to be funny, and expect people to like it. I mean, it's hard for me to grasp it. So I think that's really all I can say about that one. It's just very, it's painful. You know, the things that they make, you know, these women do is just, it's insulting, and it's hurtful, and it's dumb, and it doesn't offer anything. It doesn't offer anything for me, and I'm glad that I'm maybe a little bit more intelligent than that to be able to see the fact and how this movie really tries to really torture your brain and really does not care about its audience. And I think that's what upsets me the most about movies, and why I put them as the worst, is when they upset me. This movie literally upset me, and all the movies on this list upset me, but it's not like that they're just mediocre and I just go, oh yeah, some dumb ideas, but but these films are just kind of harmful on my brain. So that's why this is just dumb and pointless and doesn't do anything productive. And these two leads really are what drag this movie down, and the whole premise of the person just being literally hurt. And then literally you have one scene. Oh my gosh, one scene in the, if you watch Film Brain's review, the one scene in the limo, if you watch that one scene, you will understand why. I think that was the point when I thought, okay, I'm really insulted now by this movie, because this movie is just so dumb that it would do this. And it's just so disgusting too. It's painful that it's hard, and that limo scene really does emphasize that point. And oh my god. Oh god, if I were to burp and describe you to this movie, it would be a long, drawn out, disgusting burp, because that's what this movie is to me. It's a disgusting piece of garbage that should not be watched by mankind. It shouldn't even be watched by a wall. I think the wall would literally crumble on itself and fall into the abyss and rather rot in hell than sit through this movie. So yes, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can say about that movie. Now the next one is a movie that I did actually see all the way through, and that's The Ugly Truth. Yeah, The Ugly Truth. Yes, I brought up this one. I know there's some people who probably do like this movie. I think my friend, she might actually own that movie. I'm not sure. I just know that I think she actually kind of liked it. But for me, when I watched his review, at first I kind of went out of it going, didn't really have an opinion of it one way or another. But then when I sat and watched his review, and when he kind of really, because Film Brain really tries to analyze things, and he analyzes this movie, I think, really well. And when he analyzes the things, I really understand what makes this movie hard for me to watch. And why some of the stuff that I may found like okay or maybe funny, and how really the thing that's the most insulting, besides, the comedy, which is not really, I don't think, so horrible but not so great, is just the characters. And the characters are pretty much walking stereotypes. That's a problem. Especially when you're trying to address gender roles. This literally takes it back to the Middle Ages. I'm not kidding you. It literally it tries to make it insulting, and the reason why I think it is insulting is just by the fact that it sides with the one character who is, and basically Katherine Heigl and Gerard Butler in this movie, and basically Gerard Butler is really the pinnacle of a jerk. I mean, he is a jerk in this movie, and he's so annoying, and he literally is such, I mean, he just gives people a bad name. I mean, just by how he's portrayed and how he does really dumb stuff, and then you're expected to laugh at it, when really I can't find myself laughing at him because it's just so insulting. Like when he's in the shop with Katherine Heigl and he's telling her to do all of these like disgusting things, I'm just like, how can you not be insulted by this? I mean, this isn't funny. This is just insulting. I mean, come on. And even Film Brain feels sort of ashamed watching it. And again, it's I think that's really understandable, because it doesn't try to progress things. And when you're trying to address things that are really kind of serious issues like gender roles, at least do it in a productive way. It can be funny, okay? You can make it humorous. I'm sure that there are romantic comedies or other comedies out there that really do try to address gender roles, but they address it in a productive and at the same time funny way. But the problem is that it's neither so funny or productive at all. It doesn't provide anybody with anything, except, you know, maybe some cheap laughs, and then I think just with the fact that the plot just feels so contrived. Like, we've seen this before. We've seen two characters who don't like each other for various reasons, that are of the opposite gender, and then they come together at the end. Like, we've seen that tons and tons of times. And we've seen kind of the gender issues brought up, but at least some other movies did that in a more productive way. This does not do it in a productive way, because it ultimately sides with Gerard Butler's character, who's just nothing but a jerk. And oh, it's painful. It's really painful to me to watch. Now that I just look at the analysis of it, and I don't think I can watch it again the same way. After Film Brain has really analyzed and looked into it, I really can't look at it the same way that I did when I watched it really the first go around. And even my friend said that she shouldn't have been with Gerard Butler because he is such a jerk. And I thought, yeah. And I'm thinking, how can you like this movie? Because of that. Because his character is he literally is a really walking stereotype, and I think he really gives this bad image on things and on certain issues, and oh, it's painful. Sheer pain and agony. That's all I think I can really say about that one. The next one is another romantic comedy. I'm bringing up a lot of romantic comedies. I think personally, a lot of the reviews that he does for, like, maybe action movies or horror movies, they don't really bother me as much, because I find that they're just very mediocre and bad and just don't make sense at times, but not to the point where it kind of insults me personally. But oh my gosh, Bride Wars. What can I say? The two main characters in this movie, played by Anne Hathaway and Katherine Heigl, probably the most crazy duo I've ever seen. Almost as crazy as the duo from Fat Slags. Oh my gosh, these two women. They're like the high-end class of Fat Slags, pretty much. Because they're snooty, they're bossy, and they're just spoiled, and oh my gosh, they're really hard to watch. And also this plot that encompasses these two characters is really what drives the movie even further down to another low. Because all this movie is really about is just them fighting over the day, because they want to book their wedding days on the plaza. They're getting married around the same time, so they want to book a date at the plaza. But they can only book it to where they're together, where they have it on the same day. And to me, you think, why is that a problem? Because the two main characters, Anne Hathaway and Katherine Heigl, they're both good friends. I mean, I don't understand why having it on the same day is such a bad thing. And basically, they just start a whole war over it. And they do horrible, stupid things to each other. Like Anne Hathaway dying, the other characters, oh no, it's Kate Hudson, isn't it? Did I say Katherine Heigl? I apologize. Kate Hudson. Ugh. Kate Hudson. Yes. Kate Hudson, yes. Kate Hudson, Anne Hathaway in this movie, not Katherine Heigl. I got the two mixed up. They're both blonde, so I got confused. Kate Hudson and Anne Hathaway are in this movie. Basically, Anne Hathaway dyes Kate Hudson's hair blue. Kate Hudson dyes Anne Hathaway's skin Oompa Loompa style. And you'll see how that happens. And they do these really stupid things to each other, and these male characters are so non-existent and don't really offer anything. And they complain so much, and the problem is that not only is the premise lame, but it doesn't do anything inspiring or interesting. Like, I don't really feel anything for these characters because they're just so just so hard to watch, because all the things that they do, they're just so obnoxious. At one point, Kate Hudson, runs into her fiance's office and literally says, why don't you marry me now? I want to get married now. And she's crazy. Her character's crazy, and so is Anne Hathaway's character, and it's just painful, and it's not funny. It's not amusing. The things that they do to backstab each other, it's just not funny, and it's insulting. It's makes me want to throw up insulting, and it's just really dumb, and you can't get. The only way you can book your marriage is if you have it on the same day. How is that such a big deal? How is that such a big plot point? Why is that the premise of your movie? Painful. Literally painful to watch. So I think that's really all I can say about that film. Is that it's uniquely bad because not only of the characters, but how the premise is so stupid, and the conflict itself, it gets so resolved, and it's just so predictable, I think. Even though Fat Slags wasn't really necessarily predictable, it was still painful in the sense of how annoying the characters are. But these characters are painfully annoying, and also they're surrounded by something that is very, not only just stupid, but really lifeless to begin with, because it doesn't make any sense. And I think that's just why, it just insults me in that way. And again, I'm not saying these in any particular order. These are all just bad. All just a list of the ones that made me cringe. Okay, second to last one is an asylum movie. If you don't know basically what the asylum is, basically they're just a movie company, or a company that makes movies, but they make really low budget, and sometimes they copyright stuff, or really, well, maybe not necessarily copyright stuff, but really try to make things really close to a movie that came out recently. So instead of Transformers, we get Transmorphers, and yes, this is the one I want to talk about a bit, because I think it really borderline does try to insult the audience's intelligence, but by not doing anything. Literally, this movie has such horrible effects. Doesn't really have any fighting scenes at all, and when it does, they're just them trying to shoot at the robots that are supposed to be indestructible. And basically the whole premise is robots take over the world. Now we're fighting against robots. And the characters are not interesting, and nobody can really act, and oh my lord, it's painful. And it doesn't have anything within its plot to get anybody invested. And I think to me, this movie was just really boring. And I think the reason why I classify it in such a boring way is just because it doesn't do anything and doesn't really try to get anybody invested into what's going on. And what is going on is just so badly done and constructed that you're left literally with nothing, and you're just left with your brain hurting because there's nothing going on, and you want something to go on, but nothing goes on. And even though, you can say whatever you want about the Transformers movies, I personally never seen any of the Transformers movies. Transformers is not really my thing. I never really grew up with it. But at least Transformers had decent action sequences, and from what I've seen, and they've tried to make things nicely done with their computers and stuff. And I mean, I know they have a bigger budget maybe than this movie does, but at the same time, this movie could at least try to do something with its action sequences in order to get some kind of investment. But the thing is, you have nothing. You're just left with nothing. I personally would rather watch Transformers than watch this, because at least with Transformers things are happening, and they don't show you like the same shots over and over again like this movie does. And it's just really bad. And the fact that it's trying to rip off Transformers is just, and in doing so ripping off other movies, and you'll see how Phil Brain addresses that. Cringeworthy, just downright boring. I think this was a painful, boring movie for me. It was just so boring, and I just came out of nothing. At least with the other ones, I didn't feel bored to the point where it hurt, but this was boring to the point where it hurt. So I could not put it on this list. Now, the last one I wanted to talk about was Little Fockers. And this is a movie that I did see in theaters. Paid good money to see this movie. And yeah, I mean, I don't remember if I was the one who was like, hey, let's go see Little Fockers or something. I have no idea whose idea it was, but me and my friends went and we saw it. And now that I look back on it after watching it the first time around, I totally see the absurdity. And literally some of the scenes were just so absurd. And so overdone that I could not say something about it. And when I watched his review of it, even though at first I was like, oh, maybe I did like it, I don't really know, because it was a while back since I saw it. And you don't, the thing is too is when I watch movies, I don't really get a full-blown impression of it until maybe a little bit after I see it. It's not like right when I come out of the movie I'm like, oh, that was a really good movie. Unless I kind of know it is. But sometimes when it's a bad movie, it's hard for me to see these things, and I kind of look over stuff and don't really read into them when I should. And when I do read them, and when he does analyze it, it makes sense to me why it is so bad. One thing that was really bothering to me in this movie was the fact that they would have kids in it, and then that they would have this like kind of disgusting humor on the side of it. Like literally there's one scene where a kid walks in, and yeah, he opens the door and then he sees something, and it's practically really just disturbing and so out of the ordinary. Not even something that, something within the normal realm of what would happen in like a family comedy, even though this is not really tended to be for kids, even though it does have family and it does have those two kids. And Little Fockers is basically the third movie to the Meet the Parents sort of series. And the characters are really crazy. I mean, the dad, played by Robert De Niro, who is the grandfather of the little kids, he's so paranoid about his son-in-law, to the point where it just gets so old and it's so stupid, especially since it's been done already in 2 movies. You know, like him judging him and all that stuff. It's really gets old, and to the point where I'm really annoyed by his character, because, you know, you'd think that they would stop focusing on Ben Stiller's character and Robert De Niro's character, and they would try to focus maybe more on the kids, but it doesn't do that at all. And it just goes into that same thing that we've seen already. But in this to me was probably the most insulting out of the other 2, because at least with the other 2, they did address, you know, some awkward-esque type situation humor. But to me, this is really pushing it. And again, that has to do with the fact that, you know, the kid walks in on one particular scene. If you choose to watch Film Raid's review, you will understand where I'm getting all of this from. And you will understand why I think everybody's just so crazy in this movie. Jessica Alba's character, oh my god, Jessica Alba's character, she is literally borderline nuts. She literally takes these pills, and when she takes these pills, I go, what are you trying to do? Are you serious? It's, and if you watch the scene, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But basically, she takes pills, and then she just becomes totally crazy, and it tries to help support the whole plot into the idea that the Robert De Niro's character will see Ben Stiller's character cheating, because, you know, Robert De Niro's character is just very paranoid about him and thinks that he's a no good for nothing dude. And oh my gosh, just to have this kind of contrivance in a movie where literally you make Jessica Alba have pills. I mean, at least in Good Luck Chuck, she wasn't so degraded, but this movie just tries to go even further, by making her do the most stupid things in order to sort of, you know, get closer to Ben Stiller's character. And it's really, ooh, it is painful to watch, and it's really hard for me to really, you know, come out of this movie going, okay, yeah, that was funny, because I think it's only when I take a step back that I do realize, because I don't really analyze a film when I watch it the first time. I just go in going, yeah, I'm gonna see a movie, and then I don't really look into it and realize at how some things just don't make sense and how things are just bad. And again, sometimes when I'm maybe with friends, you know, I don't really read into these things. We're just kind of there to just, you know, just laugh and do stuff. And I remember laughing the first time, but then at certain things, not at everything. But some of the stuff was just so crazy, even I felt like, really, Hollywood's trying to do this? This stuff is crazy. Especially with the Jessica Alba things. But when I take a step back and I realize, you know, as I get older, I think people will realize sort of how, you know, there is sort of a line of maturity that you need to kind of establish, and this movie kind of crosses that line of maturity and goes into immaturity, and it's just painful. It's really hard to watch, and yeah, I mean, I think that's really all I can say about that movie. It's just just spit-worthy, and it really tries to insult these characters, and they don't do anything anymore, and they do stuff that's just so out there, at points that it's bothersome. and it's painful. I mean, it's just literally painful. It's like literally it hurts your brain. It hurts my brain. So if a film hurts my brain, I definitely have to review it. I guess that's maybe why he calls himself Film Brain. I'm not sure, or otherwise he thinks he's maybe smart and knows movies, so Film Brain. I'm smart, but oh my lord, that movie was just painful. And yeah, those were really the only two that I've seen. All the other ones I did not see. I only saw The Ugly Truth and The Little Fockers, and now I put them down as, yeah, some of the worst. Some of the worst that really just made me cringe and just go, and literally, I felt like something in my brain was like torturing me by just sitting and even watching a review of it, because I just take a step back and I laugh, and then I go, oh my god, that's painful. Because, I mean, I know what they're doing is really stupid, but oh, pain, just mind-numbing pain, just horrible pain. But I think that's really all I can say about this whole list that I've comprised. I'm even wondering if Film Brain will ever find this video. I doubt it, but yeah, I mean, I think out of all the reviews that he's done, this was the ones that I could come up with. I mean, I'm sure people could come up with another list, and I'm not sure if he would even agree with my choices. But for me, these were the ones that just really stood out to me as just really a damage to my brain, and maybe to my soul, probably too, by just watching these reviews and kind of realizing, you know, how when I take a step back and really look at it and really analyze what was going on, I understand how bad it was. And that's why with all of the movies that I try to review or try to do, I usually get movie advice from my parents. If they see a movie, then I'll watch it. And basically my parents have a lot of the oldies kinds of movies, so they usually don't buy ones that are just like really mediocre or just horribly bad, like all the movies that I've listed. But yeah, I do try to pick ones that I think are something worth value to me, and for me, these movies were just literally trying to hurt me. I think they really were trying to, you know, punch me as I watched them. I think that's just what I felt. But again, other people probably have totally different opinions from mine. But I think that's really all I can say. Any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. And until next time.